All right, everyone, if I could, I'd like to call this meeting of Planning and Zoning to order. And we'll start with Tammy, our city clerk, if you'd like to do a roll call.
Mr. Jerkins?
Here.
Mr. Elsie?
Here.
Mr. Kerrigan?
Here.
Mr. Kreese?
Here.
Mr. Cox is absent tonight. And Ms. Gardner? Here.
All right, so Julie will step in tonight. The next item before we move to the minutes is post reappointments, and Tim Linderman resigned, correct? So what do we need to do as a result of that? Does Julie become a permanent member?
Yes. She steps up into his stead. We need to find another alternate.
You willing to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought Steve.
It's kind of the way that
Yeah,
we've been
I thought-
doing that.
Okay, Steve Cox was an alternate, so he moved up to Tim's place.
Oh, okay.
So
He was
he's in
first.
post spot, yeah, he
But
was
she's an
first.
alternate.
I'm an alternate
For
for Steve's
tonight,
not
'cause
here.
he's not here.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
So we need to advertise for
Another
Second
alternate
an
number two.
alternate
Yeah.
two, yes.
Okay. All right. Next, the minutes from the August 7th, 2023 meeting. Are there any questions, corrections? Or do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second or second? All in favor? Minutes are approved. Okay, the one topic that's on the agenda tonight is a development order for Salt Creek Phase 2. Carly, thank you.
Good evening. This is an application for a development order for Salt Creek Phase 2 of the Town Village Planned Unit Development. That includes 92 single-family homes and 36 townhome units. This is a phase of the Town Village PUD, and the project's approximately 33 acres. But for some background, this project received its initial planned unit development as a phase approval in February of 2020. That came before you later as the preliminary plat application. So what that's doing is drawing the lines on the ground for the units to sit on. What this application is asking to do is that horizontal development, pave the streets, and other groundwork. We have our developer, Dewberry, here if you have any specific questions. We have recommendation of approval from planning, floodplain, and engineering. I can go into any specifics if y'all think that would be helpful. We can let the applicant speak or take questions.
Well, next would be public discussion, but before we move to public discussion, would you like to make a comment? Would you like to offer anything?
I can get up and add a little bit to it, Carly.
Okay.
Thank you, Carly. Yeah, and I did bring, always prepared with a big printout. So this is kind of the overall PUD for Town Village Townhomes. This area in green is what this application is for. So you see here, this was the previous townhome development. So the townhomes are going directly adjacent. There's a large park that's going to be a public park here, and then the 92 single-family residential. As a part of this, we have the central sewer system. We have a lift station designed that the city is going to take over, and we have all of our approvals for stormwater and wetlands. Thank you. And utility, all that stuff through DEP, Army Corps of Engineers, Water Management District, all the other agencies have reviewed the applications and have given us permits.
Can you show them what you were pointing to so they know? 'Cause I
Yeah,
really couldn't
absolutely.
see it.
So what we have here, the dark gray areas are the areas that have been addressed with application to the city out of the entire planned unit development. These are the apartments here. And then on the other side of Salt Creek, we have Salt Creek Phase 1. Right here, this is the original 42 townhomes that the construction is ongoing right now. This area outlined in green, that is what this application before the planning and zoning is right now. The 36 townhomes directly adjacent to the previous townhomes, and then the 92 single-family residential, large public park, and we got 3 stormwater ponds out there as well. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any specific questions you guys may have.
Okay, well, either for you maybe, or for Carly, either one. Staff recommendations, you're recommending approval, is that
Yes.
correct? Anything to add to that before we turn it over?
No, we
to
just
Bob?
recommend approval. There's no conditions, or we don't need any revisions from them for that recommendation. We have found that they're consistent with the comprehensive plan, the land development code, and because they're a planned unit development, they're consistent with that document as well.
And I do want to add, sorry, to just one more
Yeah.
thing. When we came before you guys in January of this year for the preliminary plat approval, there were a couple things specifically mentioned as questions, things for us to look into. One being some parking on the south side of 98 for beach access, and the other being a pedestrian connection from the north side of 98 to the south side. We are finalizing a contract. We've done a few preliminary layouts, selected the sites, and we have been engaged contractually to do that design work for St. Joe. So we'll be putting that stuff together, meeting with the city, discussing preferences, approvals, that kind of deal. So we have been engaged officially, contractually to perform that work now.
Well, actually was a little bit more. The recommendation from the planning board that went to the city council for the approval recommended that you look at, and looking at your plans now, you still haven't done anything, but across from where the townhomes are, was putting a trail in to get the beach access for everybody.
Yes, so what we have drawn up for right now, and the plans that you have before you right now for this phase of the development order, because we had not been engaged by our client to actually begin the work, don't reflect that. But what we have now, kind of as a preliminary layout, is along the crossings, the apartments entrance road, coming down from the apartments down, having a sidewalk go along the boat ramp road, and then there is a pedestrian access actually built in under the bridge. So it'll come down, go under the bridge, and pick up on the other side where the existing facilities are, connect all that up.
Yeah, but that's basically a joke. We talked about that. There's nobody from that apartment complex that's going to carry 2 chairs and a cooler all the way down through, under the bridge, and go all the way down to the beach. That's not going to happen. Down here now, you have all the houses, you have all your townhomes, and your apartments are back here. We're talking about a trail right straight through here, across for all these people here. Everybody here now has to keep coming down this way to access that. And the only way they're going to get down there is to drive. They're not going to walk. It's not going to happen. You own all the land on the other side, and that was the recommendation, to ask you to put in a road down through there, a dirt road, just so the people here have access.
Yes, sir, and that's when I mentioned the parking on the south side, that's what I'm talking about, is the access and the gravel parking on the south side of 98 for the folks that aren't gonna walk. They'll be able to drive across, park on the south side, and then they'll be right there at Canal Parkway so that they can, go down the beach access.
And the second issue was the fact that you basically skipped over the, right between the apartments and the townhomes, there's commercial in there. You skipped over that. And, you're looking at 216 apartments, 96 houses, and your townhomes, and there's nothing. There's not even a sports bar. There's nothing. There's nowhere for these people to eat. We have one sit-down restaurant at Mexico Beach. All this comes out to the good neighbor thing, to make Mexico Beach more, to blend in with the neighborhood. You're not doing anything to help that out. Where are these people supposed to even do anything if you're skipping over that commercial?
Well, and I think that we did have some lengthy discussion about the commercial during the previous meetings. It's being actively marketed right now by my client. I don't have a lot of details. I don't know that I'd really be able to give a whole lot of details if I had them. But they are marketing that commercial space, and as soon as they have somebody that would like to move into one of those commercial spaces, then they'll engage us to do the design. So it's really just, right now, it's just market driven. When they have a taker, essentially, for the property, then we'll be doing that as well. So it is actively being worked on, actively being looked at. It's just that we don't have,
So does that mean 2 of the 3 major, well, it's actually 2 of the major points that were discussed on January 9th have now been left out of the DO, and you'd like us to move forward with approval?
I think that it was discussed that moving forward, it'd be considered, and we are working on that. And we have now been engaged, contractually by our client to do the work.
There's 110,000
But where's the
square
commitment?
feet allocated to commercial, which will happen. It's just a matter of timing.
Correct. That's right.
So I think that we understand that it doesn't conflict at all with the LDR or the comp plan, but there was supposed to be a good neighbor effort to try to develop commercial simultaneously with the 92 plus the townhouses. And it sounds like I'm not sure that there's a commitment there.
Well, there is, it's being, I say, marketed to potential
That's what they
buyers.
said in
takers,
January
listings.
too, right?
I'm sorry?
That's what they said in January.
Well, it just hasn't landed yet. I mean, they're actively working on it, and then once they get somebody that would like to engage and develop the commercial square footage, then essentially it'll be kind of built to suit instead of just doing a standard box and parking lot. At that point, we'll be engaged to begin the design and permitting efforts, and we'll come before you guys with that as well.
So then the golf cart parking, the parking lot, the trails that were spoken of also now kind of gone to an ambiguous sentence in the DO that are basically just like, it's so ambiguous, it could not happen or happen. There's no real commitment in that.
Well, because we're, I keep saying engaged contractually, because now we actually have a signed contract with St. Joe, the parking on the south side, the pedestrian trail, I mean, they're imminent. I mean, it's not a question of if it's going to happen, it's just a question of, getting the survey crews out to pick up the info we need, start going through the permitting process. In the commercial, again, it's market driven, and I can tell you, I know it probably, I don't know that it carries a whole lot of weight for me to say that they are making a good faith effort to get that done.
But
It
can
just
that not be
hasn't
added
happened
into the DO in any way, shape, or form, specifically the one about the trails, golf cart parking and parking? It seems like that would be part of the DO.
Part of the design that's before you, or are you
Not
speaking more
design.
like conditions?
I was just reading the DO and I was desperately looking for that language that was discussed on the 9th and January 24th. And what I came up with was, there's a brief mention in the sidewalk section policy and the PUD complete streets policy, but it's not outlined. It really means nothing. The language in here doesn't encompass it.
Is that specifically, are you looking at the TPC
I believe that's my
report?
report.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so that report is just written based on the information that was submitted as part of the original DO application for this particular project. You guys can condition things, there are things that the city can do, but
Have
it
you
just
talked
wasn't
to,
part of the design that we were hired to provide for this phase.
have you talked to DOT at all about, I know down in Port St. Joe, you can go across 98 in several places without being a street legal golf cart. Since you're planning on, which was brought up in the January meeting, right across from the townhomes, where that road already is in here, you're saying about putting the lot out here and everything else. Has there been any talk with DOT about getting some flashing lights put up there maybe, and a golf cart crossing on 98 right here, speed limit's 35, to get all these people across the road to the other side if they have golf carts, and because there's nowhere else to go to the beach, unless they take a car. That's the only way to do it.
There is a DOT aspect to this, right?
Yes, so we will still have to, I think that is the one agency that we have not finalized the permitting with. You saw the improvements, and that's part of the reason why, is waiting for the improvements that were done for the Salt Creek Phase 1 crossings, and then the additional access to the boat ramp road. All those three were combined into one DOT application. That work is closing out and being kind of finalized and certified with DOT, and then we'll engage DOT on the DOT access permit for Salt Creek Phase 2. So, to answer your question specifically, that proposal hasn't been offered to DOT, but it certainly could be something that we explore during that permit process.
Okay, you know, because the whole thing, you know, you look here, we're looking at the whole Mexico Beach as a whole. And the only place that everybody in Mexico Beach who doesn't live on one of the roads on the other side of 98 that goes to the water is a dedicated beach. And we don't do anything on the other side of this. All these people down here are going to the dedicated beach. And that's going to affect everybody who lives in Mexico Beach at that area. And this is something that, you know, the good neighbor policy, this ain't a big deal to do this. But to do that would make a big impact.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why we've drawn up some preliminary layouts, some planning for St. Joe to review on getting a parking lot on that south side of 98. And we have been engaged to do that, to go through the design process, whatever permits we need to pull with city, other agencies. That process has started. Didn't specifically include doing a light, you know, flashing light crossing of 98, but that's certainly something during the DOT permitting process that we can explore.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good?
Yeah, thank you.
Well, don't go anywhere, there's probably gonna be some more questions for you.
Yeah,
So,
no
I
worries.
have a question.
Yes, sir.
Number one, on the south side, what's the parking capacity you're talking about possibly, or do you even know?
Right now, we just have kind of just the high level footprints planning. You know, we'll have to go through, do the survey, and then when we go through the actual design work, we'll have a true parking lot layout where we can count the number of the spots.
Okay.
I think what the document you have in front of you from the PUD original, you know, we had the parking capacity to serve the development on the south side, and then I think it actually identified some additional beach access parking spots. So we would like to stick to at least that number to match that for what it would have been, you know, what it will be down the road. But yeah, we don't have a specific design yet for those numbers.
Since this board clearly has an interest in that, do you have a rough timeline on when these preliminary designs would be presented here?
Oh man, this is gonna be on video, so my client's gonna see it. Hold me to this timeline. No,
Again, rough.
I mean, we should be able to have the survey done. My surveyor's also not gonna be happy with me tomorrow that I'm committing him. We should be able to have the survey done in a month or so. And then from there, it's not really a whole complicated design. So probably looking at a couple of months to have something put together. Maybe all the authorizations won't be in hand at that point, but it'll be a lot more solid at that point.
Okay, so we're looking at before year end, this
That's
question would be illustrated.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
No, you're.
So my next question is going behind Rock and the golf cart crossing. So we all live here in town, and we all know if you use the crossings that DOT put in and you hit the button, that doesn't necessarily mean anybody's going to stop, and you could get run over or not. So down here where we're going to talk about, we've got the boat traffic, we've got the bridge traffic, we've got all this traffic right here. So in my mind, I would like to see a safe way that these carts, I know it's a 35, but we all know people speed through there, even though our guys do a great job of trying to curb that. So is there a way to put a light there? Is that possible?
So this will all kind of flesh out as we go through the DOT permit process. Getting a new light would probably be a difficult effort with DOT, but it's something that we can ask and see what they would allow.
Well, I know in St. Joe, where you can cross 98,
Right.
there is a light there
Yeah.
to allow plenty of time. And when you're talking about the amount of people leaving here and coming down to the beach, I mean,
And I will say at a certain point, and I don't know that magic number with DOT for this development, at a certain point, just widening the road and adding turn lanes won't satisfy them as far as traffic
okay.
modifications. I don't know what that number is as far as at what point, if this would even trigger. But that's all stuff that we'll work with DOT on. You know, asking if we can provide a crossing there for golf carts. You know, I don't even know what their stance is on that. But that'll all kind of work itself out as we go through the DOT process.
Okay. All right, I believe we're ready to turn it over for public comment. Before we do, I just want to read a quick summary, I guess to keep us focused on the topic here and where we're talking about. This is not all of Mexico Beach. This is Salt Creek Phase 2 of the Town Village PUD, and this includes 92 single-family residential lots and 36 townhome units with their supporting roadways, storm water management facilities, and utilities. The total project that we're talking about tonight is about 34 acres. This project, as Carly stated, has already been approved in the PUD approval of February 2020, preliminary plat for Salt Creek Phase 2 in January 2023, and we're currently reviewing that development order tonight. So if you'll come up to the front, you come to the podium there, state your name and your address, please. And I'll ask each person to do the same thing if you'd like to comment.
Can we put a podium back by my chair, y'all?
You wouldn't be on camera.
That's perfectly all right. Lisa Logan, 402 Maryland. A question for Julie. When you said a light that you were just talking about, are you talking about a flashing light or an actual red light?
No, I was speaking of an actual traffic light, because in my mind, if there's not a way to put a way for them to cross, which is way far out there, but under the bridge, when you're talking about crossing 98, I mean, you got boat traffic in the summertime, you got people coming in and out of here, traffic, I mean, like a light. There needs to be something there in my mind. And I may be totally off base, but when you start talking about this amount of people coming to the south and people coming in and coming out, I just think there needs to be something.
Okay, so you're asking about an actual red light. All right.
If people paid attention to the flashing lights, then I would say that would be great, but just crossing right here at my house, I know how many times you'll be mid-crossing and they'll almost run over you.
Okay, and I know I had another one, but I'll try to figure out what it is. Thank you.
Some language, Julie, I don't know if you read, it was
Yes.
D policy 271, but, and maybe you were commenting on this, but connectivity has not been proposed to the pedestrian facilities along the Highway 98 corridor to the east.
Right.
And that is underway, as I understand it.
Right.
That you just kind of commented on a timeline.
Yes, sir.
Is there anyone else from the public that has a comment or question on this?
I have a comment.
Yeah, please step up.
Cindy Donnelly, 2703 Highway 98. And I appreciate the comments and the feedback, and I'm familiar with the discussion in January. And my question to the planning and zoning is, when are we going to hold the developers as accountable as we do private residents who are building homes? If we're building, the I's have to be dotted, the T's have to be crossed, the ink has to be dried on the paper, and the signatures have to be there. If not, we don't get a CO. Things don't get approved. We don't talk about hypotheticals. We don't talk about things that are not going to happen. Time and time again, promises are being made and not kept. Your responsibility is to make these people accountable just like you do us residents, and we should be. And that's the only way we're going to take care of our town and our people. Now, I think it's going to be a beautiful community and it's going to be an asset. But if it's been 9 months and you can't present to this council, then there's a project manager issue, there's some leadership issues, and they need to be at this table. It doesn't take 9 months to close a contract. It doesn't take 9 months to finalize some of the things that you've asked for. Give a yes or a no, but don't give me a hypothetical. Don't give me a hypothetical. Thank you.
Ma'am, let me answer you quick.
Yes.
That's why back in January when this all came up, it's up to the council to approve or not approve.
I
All we
agree.
can do is approve or not approve and
That's-
send it to the council with a recommendation.
Yes, sir.
It's up to the council to make that decision. Last meeting we had here, I was just as upset as everybody else with all the stuff that happened with the codes, trying to get COs and everything else, and that's why we passed the new ordinance, well, passed and drafted it up now, and with some teeth in it, the attorney drawing up plans to make fines for stuff that's not done with the building permit process. Because enough is enough, and that's all we can do, and that recommendation was made last month. I hate to say it, but it's up to the council to make these changes.
Oh, it absolutely is. And you can't be effective in your job if they do not support you when you get to the council. But I'm just saying, stand your ground, because this is where the foundation is. It's got to be done here, and I appreciate you voting, you know, and just trying to hold people accountable. Thank you.
Thank you.
But now I will say this, because this, if you read right here under issue of overview, it says this project received a PUD approval in February of 2020.
Yep.
So,
Let me officially make sure there's no one else from the public, and we'll turn it over to the
I was
council
just
portion.
responding to that.
Oh.
So,
We'll go ahead then.
oh, sorry. So, it's not like they've been before us for 6 months. This has been a 3-year process. So it's not like they got an immediate, I mean, this has been a 3-year process that they've been trying to work on this. So, I mean, we're not just saying willy-nilly.
Right, and I agree with that. What I'm saying is here they are, things in January, 9 months later, they're coming back and going, we finally got a contract to do the engineering work or the design work.
And
or
I
this work.
understand that since you compared it to residential, if we slowed you to build your house for 3 years, you would be upset. That's my only point, is if it took you a while to go back and forth with people, like before when we were so backed up with builders, if it took you a while to get everything together and you had been coming here for 3 years, that's I mean, it's not like
But if it's a
willy-nilly.
priority for me, I'm gonna see it doesn't take 3 years. I'm gonna put the people in place to get it done because it is a priority. It's not just to come back, and it did take a long time. I was here before the storm. I did have to rebuild, and I appreciate that. And the steps that we had to go through, I knew at the next meeting what I was accountable for, and I came back. Thank you.
All right, well, if there's no more public discussion, we'll move to the board discussion portion of this. So let's see if there are additional questions, and I'll start with one. I believe in it, and I don't see it in writing, but I think I heard that the trails were supposed to be public. Is that correct or not? I'm just looking for clarification. Are those just for the people that live in that community, or for the Mexico Beach public at all?
I think really, I don't think they're going to be restricted to the private. Where you're going to run into that is what they connect to and where they go. So, you know, if it's maybe, you know, thinking like the crossings, the apartments themselves, those may not, things, you know, connecting at that point may not have public access come and go kind of deal. But if it's connecting to a public right of way, then yeah, absolutely.
And I think where that came from was some of the early discussions that were linked sort of to the development of Windmark, which was a private community, but then as it evolved, public access was granted along the Bay Walk, and it's become a public-private destination.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say that specifically on the PUD plan, the trails, the access trails on the south side, providing access to the beach, those 100% of those are public access. The, you know, kind of the trails going through the wetlands, you know, or the areas, the common areas on the north side of 98. Like I said, it just depends on what they're connecting to. You know, if it's to the apartments, maybe not so much. But if it's connected to connecting public rights of way together, then absolutely they'll be open to the public.
Which brings up a point that it's hard to discuss in this public forum, but with the sheer volume of this project, you think there would be some goodwill introduced for Mexico Beach at large? Where's the goodwill?
May I address?
Sure.
So there were quite a few things done during the PUD approval process. St. Joe expanded the boat ramp parking. They extended the lease. You know, I don't remember the term, but they took the existing lease that the city had with the boat ramp. They extended it. There was a couple other things they did during the PUD process. And now, you know, when we're going through this, the parking on the south side of 98, the pedestrian trail, it just was not part of this package that came before you guys in January, and now we're back for the second step of that. But that is going to be, that's the next thing that we do. It just wasn't incorporated into this design that was submitted and reviewed by all the staff. The design was found to be compliant, you know, with all the regulations and policies. But we and our client have definitely heard the concerns about providing those items, and we're moving forward on delivering those.
With 100,000+ square feet of commercial retail, the goal is for the public to be able to go into those restaurants, those shops, those ice cream parlors, and whatever, correct?
Absolutely.
In the same way that Windmark operates?
Absolutely.
Where, in this phase right here, where is your park area? Open space in here. I didn't see it listed.
Let's see if I can get it. Well, I can show you on this larger one. So it's actually right here. That large oblong open space that kind of is adjacent to.
Okay, with the wetlands around the backside of it?
No, that's, the road goes around it, that's just an open park, lawn area. Which sheet are you looking at? Mr. Griggs?
Look right in here. You got your wetlands back here, you got your retention pond.
No, it's the large highlighted part right here in the middle. Right there.
Oh,
Sorry, I've got
okay.
short arms. That's the park area. It's central to phase 1 and phase 2, so it's kind of a shared park open space there. And it is, like I said, it's open to the public. It's not restricted.
Any other comments? Any other questions?
So I'm guessing the parking south of 98 will be open to the public as well at this point?
The what? Sorry?
The parking south of 98 is open to the public?
Yes, that will be open to the public as well. Yeah, that's the whole reason of providing that is to provide that access. Because there are, like I said, in the full design, the parking areas on the south side, it incorporated beach access parking. It's just that those permanent improvements, you know, are further down the road, and to meet the more immediate concerns that the city has, we're gonna kind of go ahead and jump in and put a temporary parking lot on the south side. And who knows, that may end up shifting plans around, and they, you know, may end up becoming a permanent parking spot in that location or a permanent parking area. But it will be open to the public.
So that brings up a question. So if this parking is gonna be both public and for the development, as the development continues to grow, and you have people using it for private, because we have very little private parking in town. We have down here by the old Toucans, the Pier Road, the little bit on Canal Parkway. So now if we have additional public parking, so what are you gonna do when this public parking right here is used by the public, and you have residents over here who no longer have a place to park because this is getting consumed by the other people in town who don't have parking places?
So the plan is not to make the parking on the south side of 98. It's kind of just integrated for commercial uses and retail and stuff like that. But as far as the parking areas that are just common, come and go, beach access, all that, it's not going to be restricted to the folks on the north side of 98.
They're essentially
open
the
to the
public too, right?
Right.
There's Mexico Beach Public Design.
Correct.
Right.
That's right. So it'll be open for them to use, but it won't be restricted specifically for their use.
Right, but my question is, on down the road, as you continue to go through the phases, if you only have, I don't know, an acre of parking, let's say, and now that you have completely developed all of this, and you've got the public parking here, and there's not places for your residents to park because this is getting taken over by people who don't have other places to park, do you have another plan?
We haven't evaluated the, I guess, approach of restricting or setting aside specific areas. But I mean, that's certainly something that we could look at in the future if it becomes an issue.
Well, your map shows that you have a proposed trail system that would alleviate some of that.
That's right.
To the west. As those homes grow in that direction, there wouldn't be a reason for them to want to come down there unless they wanted to drive. I do understand that.
Yeah.
Well, one thing you can do when you go to DOT and ask if there's a way to get access across the road for golf carts, whatever you put on the other side here across from the townhomes, make some dedicated just for golf cart parking.
Correct.
Because most people, unless you're a street legal golf cart, you can't drive on 98. But you could cross 98 from this whole area to get over there to get beach access. And that would behoove the whole thing here with the parking.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And that's something that, you know, we're going to look at as we move forward on the design of the temporary parking on the south is, you know, we see that for those that do have street legal golf carts, there would be a tremendous benefit, you know, instead of loading up, driving your car over, is to put some spots, even in the temporary parking lot, that are specifically catered towards golf carts.
Sounds like you've heard how important
That's
beach access is and ultimate parking is there, and we hope to see a plan for that within the next few months.
definitely, and as soon as we get, you know, something officially blessed on the preliminary layout of the parking lot, you know, we'll work with Mr. Hubbard. You know, we'll kind of work out, you know, details on that and make sure that we're not just doing it just to check a box, that it's being done with other considerations to make it kind of the best thing that we possibly can.
You know, a couple of years ago, this was all preliminary, and now we have buildings we can look at.
That's right.
I, for one, think they did a pretty impressive job of what they put in and the amount of landscaping. That didn't have to happen, I don't think, to that level. I see lots of multi-million-dollar homes with way less landscaping and sort of attention to detail. So I'm trusting that the developer is going to continue down that path of that type of responsible development for Mexico Beach. We need the homes. People that are coming here need housing for Tyndall and school system and others.
Definitely.
It looks like, from Carly's report, all of the various areas have met their requirements.
Yes, that's correct.
So at this point, unless there are no other comments or questions, would anyone like to make a motion to approve Phase 2 of the development order?
Well, I'll put a motion forward to approve Salt Creek Phase 2 with the stipulation again to the city council to look at under the procedures of the Land Development Code 2.03.06. Says right in there, the city council shall be permitted to require an applicant to make reasonable contributions, including but not limited to any combination of the following. And one of them is right there, dedication of land for public road right-of-way purpose, which would be the road across the street from the townhomes to the water for people's access for the whole development. And
So what's the motion?
the motion is to approve Salt Creek Phase 2 with the recommendation of City Council to approve, to ask for dedications right away across from the townhomes to the beach.
Does that sound like a reasonable motion? Do I hear a second for that motion?
I'll second Rob.
All right. We have a motion, we have a second. Tammy, if you'll call roll.
Mr. Jerkins,
Yes.
Mr. Elzey,
Yes.
Mr. Kerrigan,
Yes.
Mr. Kreis,
Yes.
and Ms. Gardner.
Yes.
Motion passes. And with that being the only point of business, we're ready for adjournment if there's nothing else, right? All right. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for your comments. We
Thank you.
appreciate them very much, and this meeting is adjourned.